All right, welcome back to another episode of the Carbon Cardboard Podcast covering Formula One cards and the Formula One card hobby. I'm your host, Bryan, Q3 Cards, joined as always with my good friend Scott at the F1 Castle.
That's right.
At
Close.
F1 Castle. I screwed it up. I had it all planned. I was just like, I'm just gonna drop the at and I was just gonna be Scott with the F1 Castle. I don't know. We're like a bunch of amateurs. This is like episode 9 or 10.
Factual.
Bunch of hacks. But anyway, so we are here again to talk Formula One and Formula One cards, as I said. Exciting day today, Scott. We got some news with cards that we'll talk about briefly. I don't know how many more times that Ferrari can milk the tease of their blue highlighted racecraft. Like,
I mean, as much as it, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Alpine milking their pink camo livery.
tractor.
What's funny is we're going to get there and the car will just be red. There'll be no blue.
I think they showed the nose of it today and it had blue, but it actually had more red on it than I thought it would. So
yeah, it also didn't have like two different blues. It had like both the light and the dark blue. So they're kind of,
and of course that they've been trotting. Actually, other news. Scooter. It's certainly late here, East Coast time. It's a 11:15. Scuderia Ferrari HP.
Oh yeah,
I feel like Enzo is going to be turning over his grave over that one, but it is what it is. Money talks, and you know, if you've got an HP printer, I don't know if you've got one next to you there at all, Scott, but you've got some extra Formula One merchandise now. That's right. And I'm sure you've been stacking Red Bull cans next to you with all the breaks and stuff you've been doing. So
listen, I mean, their debriefs are going to be so much better. Like they're going to have like beautiful printouts and everything. You know, it'd be awesome.
The transcripts from all the team radio, they'll be able to print them out now.
Yep, on site.
Oh, anywho, so let's not bury the lead as I choke here.
Yeah, so
like we've been doing this for like a while now. I feel like this is off to a horrible start, but anyways,
par for the course.
The Tops Industry Conference, Scott, 2024, hobby shops, industry titans, influencers, you name it. Everyone was there. And not just Formula One products, but all tops. Like, I mean, they threw out things like we knew that this was happening because Panini's going to be losing the major sports licenses for, you know, MLB, the NFL. Tops and Tops Chrome is like, all right, well, they're not going to be licensed because, you know, Panini's been doing that recently for Major League Baseball. But hey, guess what? Tops Chrome basketball, they can't call it Tops Chrome NBA yet, and Tops Chrome baseball is not baseball, excuse me, football is coming back, and they're going to have autos and stuff, laying that groundwork. But probably buried down in the bottom where most of the people there didn't really care about Formula One. Guess what? That's our jam. This is what we do, and this is what we're all excited about. Scott, we don't have anything to share on screen because A, we don't have anything, and B, we couldn't if we wanted to, just because we don't want to get anybody in trouble, especially you with Fanatics. So we can talk about it because I mean they did have a room full of people that they, you know, shared this, and it's been shared across social media at this point. So Scott, I'll throw it over to you, but I mean we're looking at Top's finest Paddock Pass.
That's right.
Now, anybody that's been in the F1 Castle breaks, you've mentioned that various times before. We couldn't figure out if we've talked about it on the podcast before, but you know, we're at 30s, early 40s here. We're old and forget things, so we're going to talk about it again, just like it's new, and a lot of other things here. So Scott, let's start first with Paddock Pass.
So real quick, just like for the Tops Industry Conference, right? I got invited out. Actually, my wife and I were invited out. We were gonna be going, and then I actually had to go to a bachelor party this past weekend, so we had to cancel that. And then we're going to the Miami Grand Prix, but I got to go in remote, I got to view remote. Now I only tuned in during F1, and like you said, like there was only a small section that was F1, which actually worked out because I got to just watch for, it was like 30 minutes ish. They talked about F1, but it was a lot of cool stuff. Like you said, we'll start with the new products. So this is something that I mentioned in the past. I think I made a reel on Instagram about a couple weeks ago, but Paddock Pass coming out summer 2024. So
Ooh.
sometime in the next 2 to 3 months, we're going to get Paddock Pass. Now, if you are a fan of baseball or soccer, you've seen products called Stadium Club. This is Formula One's take on Stadium Club. So, what you're generally getting in that product is more imagery based, cards and things that really kind of pay homage to just like beautiful photography, not so much like, just here's a portrait of the driver, even though those are the ones that are generally the most valuable. It's just going to be like really cool, iconic pictures. They have a lot of fun with it. I'll tell you right now, and I can't go too into it, but I'll tell you right now, there are pictures that are not of drivers, right? You will see pictures that do not have actual drivers in them. That have some other fun stuff that I think people will enjoy. But yeah, so I think it'll be a fun set, cool set to collect, especially if you're really into, like I said, Stadium Club for baseball and soccer, and you like the imagery focused cards. This will be the set for you.
Yeah, I think just as this is gonna be a fan set because the collectability wise or I guess the investability wise, it's just it probably won't be there. And to be honest, for like you mentioned with baseball and soccer, obviously low number parallels, anything is going to do well. But like you've said, I think a lot of people will find the really cool images. And Topps has a lot of good photographers, which I think that's why I struggle sometimes with some of the images that we do get in like Topps Chrome, and I just feel like they're just throwaways. I'm hoping that they really get to show some of the really cool parts of the sport that we all know and love, and
Right.
get more people, and we'll talk about it a little bit more too about helping with some of the accessibility to the hobby, and not make hopefully not make these all hobby exclusive like a lot of Formula One has been. I mean, you've talked about it when a couple episodes ago, Scott, when you were in Melbourne and going around handing out packs of cards and stuff to kids. If you want to grow this hobby, you have to involve kids. And like you've
Yeah.
said, that like kids love the car cards. Like I think this is a great set that if we're a family friendly show here, despite all my my potty mouth before we hit the actual record button here. you know, it's like the type of set that you can open, with your kids and
Mhm.
have some fun, and I think that definitely will help grow the hobby in our small little niche of it here with Formula One.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I don't mean to generalize either here, but I think like especially if you're a fan of Drive to Survive, and if that's one of the ways that you got into it, I think you will really, really enjoy this set. Like from the again, we didn't see too many images, and like I can't give specifics, but like think like a lot of just like behind the scenes type stuff. There's some fun images in the small examples that we got. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be really fun to open and just look at the cards. I will say like it's going to be something that's fun to like do Percy's of do you know buy it sealed open with your kids like you said. I'm not gonna be running. I know there's already people that are talking about it. I'm not doing like 50 case breaks of Paddock Pass. Like it's just not gonna happen in F1 Castle, I'll tell you right now. So but it'll be fun. It'll be a fun product to rip and to look at the images and enjoy. So yeah, no, I'm excited for it.
So Scott, the other one that we talked about briefly with the I guess air quotes like new products was obviously Topps Finest, and
Yeah.
Topps Finest also has a long history with Topps. Again, a lot of those other same sports. Again, not quite Chrome. It's kind of like, I mean, obviously we've gotten light versions of Chrome, but it really is Chrome light. I mean, the cards aren't as thick. Actually, they're very probably similar to what 2023 Topps Chrome was. You know, thinner cards, not as not as thick, but again, another entry point that isn't as expensive as Topps Chrome that will again help others get in. So I'm looking forward to it for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, to me, so I've seen some of the images of the card design, right? And I really like the way they look. Like I think kids will love it. I think a lot of adults will love it as well, but like it reminds me, like I remember collecting, baseball, basketball, football cards, and like Topps Finest Basketball was one of my favorite like cards to ever collect when I was a kid. Um, and I think this is very reminiscent. I'm really looking forward to it. I know in other products, other sports, you get a lot of autos. I don't know. I like F1, it's tricky, right? Because, we compare to other sports. In baseball, I mean, there's hundreds of players. In football, there's hundreds of players. In basketball, hundreds of players. Like at the end of the day, you can't just shove autos into products because then you'll dilute it like immediately. So I know people are talking about, oh yeah, other products, it's 2 autos per box. I would not expect that. We did not
Mhm.
get specifics, but I would not expect 2 autos per box. At most, it'll be like 1 auto per box. And again, it'll probably be pretty heavy on like, Formula 2 stuff. But yeah, Topps Finest looks really good. It's another product again coming out summer 2024. I'm hoping they don't come out at the same time, but I'm gonna be honest. I would be I would actually be surprised if they don't come out within 2 weeks of each other. I'm calling it right now. I'm expecting them to come out one after another. Not like 1 week and the next, but like they'll be out within a couple weeks. It just makes sense from a business perspective for Tops to like, hey, we have an F1 release, push them out instead of
Mhm.
like, hey, let's do all the marketing and everything around F1 and then do it another time a month later. I'm expecting them to come out pretty quickly, one after another. But I think it'll be fun. It'll inject a lot of fun. I mean, listen, I'm still loving. I just ripped the case of Chrome tonight and a case of Sapphire 2023. I'm still enjoying that. There's still a lot of cool stuff out there, but I think it'll be fun to get something new, especially when if this is going to come out in June, July, or August. At that point, we're going to have had Chrome for 4 or 5 months, Sapphire for 3 or 4 months. So I mean, we'll have had this stuff for a while. So I think it'll be fun to mix in some new stuff, especially if it's the price points that we're expecting, where it's cheaper than a hobby box, right? I think that'll be a lot of fun, so much easier to do like a personal and like have fun with it, right? Like you're not like Sapphire, you're like, oh god, I'm dropping like $550. Like, I hope I get something. On this, it's like, $100 and you get some cool cards you can have fun with. So
It'll be interesting to see how they do, because what they've always done with the other sports, at least recently with soccer and baseball and stuff, is like they call it like a master box, but then you get the 2 smaller boxes in each, basically in a master box, you're basically getting 2 autos. But to your point, with soccer, especially when you're talking like um, UEFA, or they've done so many more things. Even with like Major League Soccer recently, I know that was a big hype thing with Lionel Messi being available. And then with baseball, there's just so many people. They have like 300-400 people that can sign, so it's not unheard of that you get an auto in each box. The problem is when you get those, even with those sports, the autos they're barely worth like $10-15. And it's just like, oh, great. And it's gonna end up being the same way too with like Formula One, where you get so many F2 autos.
yeah,
I just wish they could come up with something else other than an auto to be like the chase. But that's up to Tops to figure out, not us. But
yeah. And I think again, can't go too into depth here, but I think they have some ideas, and I think they know that. And I think, like, look at, for instance, okay, look at some of the other products from other companies that come out, like Kaboom, right? A Kaboom is like, oh my God, like this is epic. You hit a Kaboom, it's what you're going for.
K-Set,
Color
yeah.
blasts, what you're going for, right? I think like variations and stuff haven't quite gotten there, but I think if they have a Kaboom-esque, a manga, that type of stuff, that gets you there. And I think that's how they're gonna hopefully, and based on, what I'm hearing, potentially be approaching it going forward and relying less on autos just because they can't. They can't rely on autos like a lot of the other sports can. So
Very cool stuff. So other things, I think I saw Scott Dynasty might be getting some changes. What are your thoughts on that? What can you share?
yeah. So what I can share about Dynasty is that two major changes that we're gonna get. One is the introduction of booklets. So if you've seen
Ooh.
booklets in other sports, right? It's the one card, you open it, right? It's essentially like as large as two cards. Um, it gives them a lot of room to play with, right? And this is one of the things they actually talked about specifically, is it gives them room to add more interesting patches. It gives them room to add more drivers and not have them be so tiny. Like for instance, I've actually got here, you can put it up on screen. This is a duel, right? Of a driver here, Dynasty from 2023, Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll. I mean, the pictures of the drivers are tiny. The patches are tiny. The place where they sign is small. So if you've got a booklet, it gives you a lot more room to be able to play with that more, and potentially opens it up to maybe more than two drivers. So some of
Ooh.
the things that have been thrown out, and again, this isn't official and this hasn't been, verified that this is going to happen, might be something that maybe they're going to build on in the future that we'll see in, 25, 26, who knows. But think cross team triple autos. I mean, like in one of the examples I've given specifically in some of the other products, right? Recently, you've seen like a Leo Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Erling Haaland from soccer, all from different teams, autograph. Imagine a triple world drivers champion, Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, patch auto. Like, I mean, come on. So those are types of things that could be potential. And then the other thing they specifically mentioned is cut autos. So cut autos. Now you got to think of some of the drivers. There was one that was mentioned, but you got to think of some of the drivers that they would need cut autos for, right? If you look at baseball, it's mostly people that have passed, right? So you're like Mickey Mantles, your Babe Ruths, like you're getting cut autos of those guys because they're not around to sign anymore. Right now, we've had some legends added into our recent products. David Coulthard, he's still around, he's signing. Alain Prost still around, he's signing. Nigel Mansell, he's still around, he's signing. He was actually the only legend that was in Dynasty this past year. But we've also had Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna. Now, Ayrton Senna, fortunately, no longer with us, and Schumacher not in a capacity to be able to sign, right? So both of those drivers, you would need cut autos. So the potential to get, a Michael Schumacher or an Ayrton Senna dynasty card with a cut auto, I mean, sign me up. That would
Mhm.
be, I mean, absolutely legendary. And then imagine, throw that in, and then you do like a Schumacher, Senna, Lewis Hamilton, try world champion, like, oh,
Oh,
or even just, e-
Lewis would wanna be on a card with
oh yeah,
Senna.
yeah, and even, and I know he'd probably want to be on a card with Senna more than Schumacher, but I think a Schumacher Lewis card, I mean, 14 world championships across the two
Mhm.
of them. They could even do something like 7-time world championship. I mean, it's, yeah, the possibilities are endless. If now that they're adding in, more room to play with the booklet, and then the potential of cut autos bring some of those legends into play. Schumacher and Senna are the ones that you kind of go to right away. But I mean, there's a cavalcade of guys that you could you could go back and look at, some of the legends from back in the day that are no longer here that would be legendary. you know, Pun there, to have on a card. So yeah, exciting for Dynasty. I think. Listen, I love Dynasty this year. I think the design of the card really kind of popped and like made it different from the other years. But I think it'll need something, and I think this is just what it needed, at least, to make it legendary, to make it, the dynasty that we've come to expect, right? So I think if it had just been another release like last year, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, and it's just like a little bit of a different design, but kind of the same old thing. I mean, eventually it's just going to get stale, right? So I think adding the booklets, the potential of, you know, different team autos being on the same card, and more than two drivers, cut autos, booklets, and I'm here. I love it. Innovation is the best. So
Yeah, and I mean, we're really at a point, Scott, where, the Formula 1 market is still materializing. I still feel like there's a boatload more people, especially a lot of people that go to Formula 1 races that aren't even aware that they make trading cards.
yeah,
Even in the United States, where trading cards are more prevalent, where in Europe and in Asia, they're more apt to go for stickers, and that's more what is collected than cards. At some point, I think that initial, like, the COVID, the end of 2020, 2021, when the card market just went to the moon, like, we're gonna look back at that time period, and it's gonna be just this huge spike, and it's gonna have come back down. I feel like even our space of the hobby is more, there obviously are people that are investing and throwing some significant money at it, but they're building collections, and really that's what like, to your point, that's what Tops needs to capture, is what is going to get somebody to open their wallet and add additional things to their collection that they don't already have. And you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. Like, I love Max Verstappen, like that's one of my main PC. At some point, I'm gonna wonder, like, how many Max Verstappen cards is too much? And then even consolidating down into the best of the best, like, what's gonna get me to buy more Max Verstappen cards? Give me
yeah.
some innovation, Tops, and it seems like they're listening.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned there too, in terms of like, like when I went to the race in Australia, like kids loving to get the cards, and people not knowing there are cards. Well, I think they're doing another, thing to address that, right? And we've been waiting for this for a while, but it sounds like they're now going to have retail products. So they mentioned they're going to have retail SKUs. So we don't know specifically what they are, but think like, like blasters or hangers. Like, you can go into a Walmart, a Target,
Yep.
and your basketball, your baseball, your Pokemon or whatever, there's going to be a hanger of Formula One cards you can buy, or a little blaster that's got, 4 or 5 packs. And I think that really increases accessibility and just general awareness of Formula One cards and hobby, and will be paramount, really, for the hobby to survive, for Formula One to continue to grow as a card hobby. You need to bring in more people, and this is the best way to do it. Like, you can make really good products that either keep the folks that are already in, or bring in some of those like high end, high tier people, but like you need the general base populace to be on board for something to survive and thrive, and retail is how you do it. And I'm so excited. I don't know how heavily I'll collect retail cards, or how much I'll go buy, but I tell you what, I'll certainly go get a bunch of them and like throw them in for free in breaks, or like do them as giveaways and
Mhm.
stuff. And I'll love to see people buying them in the store. I mean, oh, I'm excited for that.
I mean, that's why baseball like, when you say cards, like, most people refer to them as, like, baseball cards. It's just like, instead of a copy machine, it's a Xerox. It's just like,
Hmm.
people wonder all the time, why does Topps still make paper products and still flush that out? Like, that's a base entry thing that it gets people to see the teams, the players, the cards. I mean, Formula One, I think there was 1 or 2 years that Flagship actually did have, um, blasters that were at like Target and stuff, but the supply was next to nothing. You couldn't
Yeah,
ever find
few and
them.
far between. I never saw one in person.
I never did either, and we're 3.5 hours away from each other.
I was
It
hunting too.
Yeah, we all like you if you want to like support the hobby and things, you go look
Mhm.
for them and you don't find them, you get frustrated. So, yeah, and if you go into any like Target or Walmart now, regardless of whatever sport it is, more often than not, like the card sections are just completely wiped out. Like people have bought all the Pokemon cards, and even if you went in at one point and they had, you know, WNBA and women's soccer and all these other sports that you don't think a lot of people collect, you go in like a week later and they're all gone. Like
Well,
they
yeah, I
need
mean,
Formula 1 to be on that shelf.
especially during COVID, right? People were like camping out, waiting for like MJ Holdings truck to show up and like map it down, and people were getting into fights. Dude, it was crazy, especially with like Pokemon for a while. It was actually insane. But yeah, I mean, getting it into stores, just like getting it in front of people, like that is massive. Like imagine what it'll do. Like, listen, if I'm Tops, you know where I'm gonna try to spread it out, of course, but you know where I'm putting a ton of it? Austin, Texas, Miami, Florida, Vegas, like where we have racetracks.
Mhm,
I'm going to dump a ton of that product there because those are the folks, right? That they're going to be wanting it. Like I said, when I went to the race, I would say 90% of the people didn't know that the cards existed in Australia. Had no idea that they had cards. Some of the people knew and they were like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." And like, you show them like base cards and they don't care. They're just like, "This is so cool. There's a card that commemorates, the driver that I love." And like
mhm.
that is what captures and captivates people and gets them into the hobby in the first place, right? So, yeah, I'm really excited. This actually may be the thing that like maybe impacts me the least as like a breaker or whatever of like, higher end stuff generally. But I think it's a thing that I'm actually the most excited for the Formula One hobby as a whole. Like, I mean, listen, my son Sebastian's a year and a half, so he's probably a little young. But like if you've got kids, like this is, you could spend $25 on a break of a F2 driver or something in a case of chrome, or don't do that. Go out and buy a blaster and open it with your kids. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
that's just I think that is going to be huge for getting more people in. And again, accessibility and awareness is massive for growing any hobby. And I think it'll be huge for Formula One. So really excited about it.
Whew. Yeah, great stuff. Really looking forward to it for sure. So many more to come for sure. I guess more to come, Scott, is like you mentioned, you're headed to the Miami Grand Prix tomorrow. We've got a race this
Yeah.
weekend. It's sprint race too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sprint race. But so sorry, super quick before we go on Miami, because there was one last thing that I wanted to
Okay.
mention from Topps Industry. So there is a new product that's going to be coming out, and there wasn't much detail on it. All I know is that it's Chrome. And looks like and I think they actually even said that the name wasn't finalized, but it's called Qualifying Lap. And if you're familiar with like Breaker's Delight from other products, other sports, it's exactly that, right? Breaker's Delight, they call it that for a reason, right? Because it's not as many cards and all the cards are hits, right? So like for instance, I just went through a 2023 Chrome base and like or Chrome case, and like the base don't ship anymore. Like base, like I donate them all because it's too much to go through, sort, do everything. Everyone gets their hits and like refractor portraits. So like now, and now that we've had this product for a while, no one wants it, right? And if someone wants it, I'm like, all right, here you go. I'll mail you a big stack of it. But like people don't generally want it. They've had time. Okay, boom, I've got my set. There's nothing else to do with it. So now we're gonna have products where it's just hits. So it actually reminds me a little bit of Echelenza, because even if you got a base card in Echelenza, it was kind of like getting a hit
Mhm.
because they're hard. So yeah, it sounds like it's going to be distributed with 12 packs in a box, 8 cards in a pack. So the actual like number of cards you get is actually kind of similar to like a Chrome hobby box, right? But they're all going to be hits. So I think that's going to be a really fun product. breakers will love that product because it's a lot
Mhm.
easier to ship to do that. And I think people will also really enjoy it if you're joining a break, because if you get it, you're going to get hits. You're not just going to get base cards, right? So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one as well. I think it'll be cool. I have no information in terms, they did not mention like when that's coming out or anything like that. Just, 2024. So we'll see that at some point, hopefully this year, if it doesn't get pushed back. But yeah, another new product, or at least a new way of packaging a product, that should make it fun. So I'm excited.
One more final thought here, so Scott. So
Sure.
one of the other things I mentioned too that we were chatting earlier today is I think you mentioned that Topps is very aware that they're behind with
Yes.
the year they're in and what the card, and I mean that started back with 2020 releasing 9 months late, whatever it was,
Yeah, it was supposed to come out
I think
in like
September
September of
2020.
2020.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that was one thing that they kind of hammered home, is that, listen, they know that they're behind on Formula One, and is something they're really working on. And, hopefully it's not just lip service, and, it's something that they're legitimately putting resources into, because you have to think like, okay, they're also adding a bunch of new products, right? So, but I mean, look at how many products they have for baseball, and they're pretty good about getting those out, when they're supposed to be out. So yeah, I'm hopeful. Right now we're like almost an entire year behind, like literally an entire year behind. So any progress is progress, right? If we see any 2024 products coming out in 2024, like imagine Chrome comes out in November, that would be a big win. It would be a win, right? Because theoretically, right, if it comes out in November, we might still be racing, and we'll have cards from, the 2024 season. Granted, driver of the day and Grand Prix winners still all another year behind. But you'll have, pictures and images from the current season, which is fun, right? I mean, I think you want to eventually get to the point where it's, way earlier. But yeah, I'm excited for hopefully the timeline to move up a little bit. And we're not waiting until, February and March for the products from the last year.
Miami. Now we'll go to Miami. So exciting track, first one in the United States of the year.
That's right.
It looks like it's gonna be fun. A lot of teams, and we talked about at the very opening with Ferrari, their livery. I feel like Miami is a track. It's now going to be what our third year racing here.
Third year.
Third year. A lot of people have really cool helmets. I mean, Lando's had a basketball and a beach ball. Max now has like a blue helmet that he's going to use for all three United States races, which I'm kind of bummed because Max, like we've talked about before, like you and I both love mini helmets, and he usually has one for each of the United States races. So
Yeah.
we're just getting one for all three.
I
But
wouldn't be surprised if they end up coming up with something new for Vegas, but maybe we'll see. But yeah, I mean, a lot of new helmets. Oscars looks insane.
oh, he's
Dude,
good.
Oscar has been killing it this year with the mini helmet game. His Australia one was amazing. Now his Miami one is amazing. They're doing well over there. Way to go, Oscar's team.
So we're probably a little too early in the week here, Scott, for your castle calls. But I mean,
Never too
outside of
early.
the obvious that, obviously Red Bull is most likely going to be fairly dominant here. What else? What are we thinking down the grid from here?
Oh, I don't know. I gotta say, I mean, last race that I went to, Max had a DNF, and I like to bring some chrome base with me. So who knows if I swing by the paddock and drop
Throw
some
that in the
chrome
brake duct.
base in the brake ducts again. No, I mean, obviously Red Bull gonna be very strong. Historically, Ferrari's also been very strong at this track. And they're already kind of like, the second fastest team. Lando's kind of snuck in there a little bit, but I think Ferrari is the second fastest team for sure right now. I know some upgrades are coming for Mercedes at this track. Not sure if McLaren is bringing upgrades or if they're waiting until we go to Imola, but I think Mercedes is bringing some upgrades, so maybe they edge ahead of Aston Martin. But I would expect to see, if we're talking qualifying, especially, it's likely going to be between, Red Bull and Ferrari for pole, both in the sprint pole and the race. This is the first year that Miami's done a sprint race, which is fun. We have tickets. We were supposed to be in a suite, but didn't work out. Things happen. So we actually just bought our tickets the other day. We're going to be on the start finish straight because we really loved that in Australia. It was so much fun. I mean, being on the start finish straight, especially on like a sprint weekend this weekend, like you're going to get to see 2 qualifying sessions, and being on the start finish straight, like right near the finish line during qualifying, is legendary because like you're seeing them come across and like you're looking up at the times to see how they did, and then they're starting their laps, so that should be fun. And then sprint race start and race start, always the most exciting parts of the weekend. So if we're talking pole, and this is early, I'll be coming out with my castle calls and everything, dropping it on the Instagram over the next 2 days. So this will be a little preview. But so we've got sprint pole. I'm going to go. Oh man, put on the spot here. We're going Leclerc.
I was going to say, like, that would have been my pick. Would have been
I'm going Leclerc. Sprint pole, Leclerc. And then sprint race, Max, Leclerc, Checo.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know if I would have had Checo, but I definitely would have Max and Leclerc there.
Max, Leclerc, Checo for sprint. Then we go to the race day qualifying. I'm going to say Max because at this point, you know what I really want to see? Because he can't win every race because he didn't win Australia. Can you imagine if Max got pole every single race? Because he's been on pole every single race so far. So I'm going to say Max on pole. Because I'd love to see, I mean, hey, come on. We know Max is dominant right now. The Red Bull car is insane. So just go for some records. So I'm going to go Max on pole. I'm going to say he wins the race again. I think the Red Bull is too strong in race pace over that distance. So I think Checo comes in second. And I think Sainz sneaks onto the podium. So I'm going to go Sainz in third in Miami. What do you think for your top three?
So I think the one thing too is like there's so many memes now about Sainz not listening to team orders. Is what are you going to do? Fire me? Like,
yeah,
I think this.
I can't believe he actually said that too. At first, I thought that it was just like a joke, but he said that. He actually in an interview, he's like, "What are they going to do? Fire me?" I was like, "Oh my god, let's go,
like
Carlos."
that level of like. I love this version of Carlos Sainz because not only has he always been a very technically sound driver, like now he's got like the motivation. I mean, he's still looking for a ride in 2025, but like that, like, what are you gonna do to me? Like, you're not gonna stick Behrman in the car again. I mean, he's like, I'm getting you on the podiums, and it's good. Yeah, I can see him not listening to team orders per se during the actual race, and Leclerc coming in like say fourth again.
Yeah,
it's it definitely is interesting. I will though say we're getting close to 40 minutes here, so we'll close the carbon cardboard doors here momentarily. But Scott, I will say, pat on the back to myself and to you. If you haven't listened or watched our 2025 driver prediction show yet, currently both podcast hosts here,
100%.
1 for 1, 100%. We called Nico Hulkenberg.
Brackets are still good at this point.
Yep. Although then it starts to get a little off the rails after that. But
well,
man,
the good thing is that we have variants, right? So like we're gonna have to put it to the listeners for like what is the loser gonna have to do? Like shave your left eyebrow, or
I don't know about
that. Figure it out. We'll let the listeners come up with some ideas, and then we'll pick from maybe some of the more tame ones. So if you have an idea,
it's not really like this just shot in my head, and it's not really punishment because both you and I are huge Formula One fans, and even the teams and the drivers at the end of the grid are. What we should have to do is the losers should have to buy like a team shirt or a team polo shirt of like the 10th place team and wear it very proudly for
There
multiple
you go.
episodes or something.
Love that.
So
Well,
get ready to get your Alpine. You already
yeah,
have an Alpine shirt.
I do have an Alpine shirt. I'm wearing it this weekend because it's like Miami colors. It works perfectly. Gasly shirt.
But yeah, in the comments below, if you've got another idea for a Formula One themed challenge, and all in good fun. I mean, we don't want anybody to have any bodily harm or look disfigured. We are.
I mean, left eyebrow.
Oh
It was just
boy,
an incident,
incident.
Yeah, so I'll save the castle call for Instagram because
Yep.
that's also the one that I like to cook up a little bit. I mean, right now it's just tough to look past Red Bull and Max. It really is tough. So I know I'm going a little chalk, but is what it is. Castle call, get a little crazy in. But the last thing before we end that I do want to talk about in Miami, and so I've actually done this the past 2 years that I've gone to Miami. Every year I've gone, ripped a 2020 Chrome case. And last year's case was pretty epic. It was my first 2020 Lewis Hamilton auto that I ever pulled. That case also had a Leclerc auto, had a ton of good stuff in it. And just a couple of weeks ago, right, when I ripped a 2020 Chrome case, we had that red wave Max Verstappen, orange Lewis Hamilton auto. So we're doing another 2020 Chrome case live from Miami. We're going to do it the eve of the race. So after qualifying, we're going to start around 9 o'clock Eastern. So that's posted on my Instagram, guys, at F1 Castle. If you want to get involved, 2020 product. This is the best product that you can join. 2020. It is iconic. It is expensive. So that is, full disclosure, is expensive to get in, but it is a ton of fun. The cases that I've had have been absolutely cracked out of their minds lately. We got it from the same source. So we're hoping for another legendary case, either a superfractor or something super cool. But yeah, some spots are still available. I just posted it today, but they're going pretty quick. So if you want to get involved, check out my Instagram, pick up a spot, and join me in Miami for an epic 2020 Chrome case break.
And even if you don't join, just join for the vibes. It's
Oh yeah,
I mean, the
come
amount
watch.
of people that you get in your lives. I mean, 50. I bet you're gonna push over 100. The fact that it's Miami race weekend, and once you say anything about 2020 in Formula One,
2020, legendary.
everybody just like zooms right into the
Yeah,
zooms right into
it's
the
not
vibes.
going to be around forever, right? That's the thing, is that it's a product. It's a first year, and it's just there's a finite amount. So get it while you can.
And those people that are sitting on sealed cases are doing mighty fine. And if you have them, sell them to Scott.
Yeah, there you go. Right, I'll take them.
Yes, sold. I'll buy that for $1.
That would be nice.
All
All right, well
right,
that's all I got.
yeah, let's wrap this up, Scott, because we're already rambling here. I thought this was going to be like a 20-minute episode, and here we are. But we
No,
get
too much going on in
excited.
the hobby. That's
There's so
right.
much going on. We get excited about this stuff. We love talking about it. Hopefully, you love listening, love watching. Let us know about our challenge. Keep us in line with our driver picks.
Yep.
Like, subscribe. We'd love some more reviews and ratings. A 5-star rating, hopefully, on Apple Podcasts. Get the signal out to more Formula One fans. We would
Right.
absolutely love it and appreciate it. So, Scott, I will throw it over to you to bring us home.
All right, guys. Well, collect your cardboard. Keep it carbon.